The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Thanks to my good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Max Radio. Open line today, this Friday lunchtime. So if there's something on your mind, by all means get in touch. Several ways. You can WhatsApp on 166 If you're WhatsApping, you can also send a WhatsApp audio message if you want. Text 166 Email studio@maxradio.com. Call 66 13 68. Well, the good news is that the Southern Agricultural Show is a week away. It's a week tomorrow and Sunday, because if it were tomorrow, the weather will be awful. So fingers crossed, hope it's out of the way. Schools break up today. Oh, jolly good if you have somebody at home. They're back to school on Wednesday, the 6th of September. Start counting down now. So Southern Agricultural Show is a week tomorrow. The Radio Caroline weekend's 2 weeks tomorrow. The Royal Show's 3 weeks from today, and the Manx Grand Prix starts 4 weeks on Sunday. And single-use plastic outlawed. Is it 13 weeks as yesterday, 12 weeks as next Thursday? So we're getting ready to not be using any single-use plastic. I'm contacting you as a regular patient of Noble's Hospital, and it's not a complaint about carers or the hospital staff. I have 2 permanent carers who regularly call out my doctor when I'm bad, because I can't get an appointment to see a doctor. On several occasions now, my doctor's told me I need to go to hospital now, so they call an ambulance. If I'm lucky, one will turn up 1, maybe 2 hours later. I'm taken to Noble's. Often no bed available, so I'll be kept in the back of the ambulance for another 1, 2, 3 hours. Sometimes I'm brought into the hospital only to be left on a trolley in a corridor. When I get to see a doctor, they treat you with a minimum amount of time and then send you home as soon as possible, only for the situation to play out again a few days later. A&E, says this correspondent, 032, isn't better. I've seen people with head injuries left sitting in the waiting area for hours until called. So the service isn't perfect at the moment. In fact, says this texter, it's poor. Not a complaint about the carers or hospital staff, just the way the situation is at the moment. And let's go to John with us first of all. Hi, John.
Hi, Andy. You had a gentleman on Wednesday querying why the new Manxman had cabins with wardrobes and double beds, you know, and saying that who's going to unpack all their stuff for a 3.5-hour crossing.
Yeah.
Now, I'm beginning to wonder whether there's not a hidden agenda here. We have what you could call a compromise between a roll-on, roll-off vessel and a mini cruise ship. About the same size as the Hertie Gruten, before somebody comes on, and I probably pronounced that wrong, which have moved into cruising from just serving the Norwegian coast, because they come here. And I would say they're about the same size as the Manxman. Now, what's to stop the Manxman doing the same? For instance, short cruise to Jersey, Guernsey, possibly calling at Liverpool or Dublin, or maybe TT time, direct sailings from a French port, Cherbourg, Ouistreham, something like that. This would be popular with continental TT fans who now have 2 ferry crossings and a 300-mile drive to Hisham. If they could get on a ferry in northern France and come direct, I would have thought that would be a big advantage. Because let's face it, from what you read, this ship is grossly overspec'd for a 3.5-hour journey from Douglas to Hisham. And you do wonder whether there's some, plus the fact the public have not been allowed on. So what have the steam packet got to hide?
Well, we'll be on shortly, apparently. Well, either it's going to... Is it tomorrow morning it starts?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. But it just makes you wonder whether the steam packers haven't looked at the Norwegian ships that come here and thought, we could do that.
I wonder. Well, I mean, by a big margin, they make all their money on freight. I mean, what is it now? £1,500 for an articulated trailer on there. So you only need 50 of those on board, and they're making plenty of money. So in terms of passengers, I don't think they make that much money. No, but let's face it, we've now got 4 ships if you take the Arrow. Yeah. And the fast craft. So... they may make all their money out of freight, but on the other hand, this short cruise round the British Isles, Norway to here, seems to be taking off. And it just makes you wonder whether they haven't thought we could get in onto this. Well, remember, we own it, so any profit's ours, John. Yeah, I mean, let's face it, the government, they're playing it. It's very smoke and mirrors over this ship. It's very hard to find any really details out about it. And as I say, our transparent government are not sort of coming forward with information. Neither are the steam packets. So it does make you wonder whether there is a hidden agenda. Oh, well, we'll see. OK, well... watch this space. When are you due on board her? Are you taking a trip shortly? September. I think the 3rd week in September. And you're not booking a double cabin, are you, John? No. We always have a cabin, but I certainly wouldn't pay what they'll be charging for a cabin with a balcony, because let's face it, who needs a balcony? How many days a year could you sit on a balcony on the Irish Sea? That's great, isn't it? With a full view of the gas rigs. Well, yeah. All right, John, thanks for calling. Okay. Bye now. Good to hear from you. It's 14 minutes past 12 on Manx Radio, our brand new boat, and we'll tell you when she starts sailing with paying passengers on board. Talking a lot yesterday about this consultation that's going out from Department for Infrastructure. The Highways Director, Mr. Robinson, sent a directive out, or a consultation letter, to the local authorities about large vehicles being parked in residential areas, big vans and what have you, and often big motorhomes as well. Texter 873 says, Andy, regarding David's comments about large vehicles, we live in a lovely residential road in Port Erin with a glen and a stream on one side and a row of Victorian terraced houses on the other. When the houses were all privately owned, there wasn't a parking problem, but since they've been converted into flats, it just seems that residents are trying to turn our road into a van park. One of the vans is about 20 feet long and about 9 feet high, often left for days on end outside our house. So instead of looking out onto a nice green hedge and gardens, we're looking at what seems like half an acre of white tin. Any legislation will be welcomed by us and our neighbours, says Brian in Port Erin. I wonder what the situation's going to be regarding this. When is somebody going to say that most nurses are being paid way over the national average, says Dick. Many get the best part of £40,000. So they're not starving, says Dick, and if, like some nurses, you're paid $80,000 a year, you're laughing. There are much worse off to be worried about on the Isle of Man before nurses, says Dick. We are in a global market for nurses, though, Dick, so we have to pay the going rate, but they're still in dispute, aren't they? The possible strike action. So we'll see what happens. And I got a message in from Trevor, who said, regarding the nurses' industrial action, that's what he said, regarding the nurses' industrial action, is this not just being directed from the UK, particularly England, where there seems to be a left-wing agenda to take on the government over there? We just happen to be catching the back of it over here. You may be right. Of course, those nurses, the representatives, are all from the UK, the ones that have been that we've been broadcasting the messages over here. But we are caught in the middle of it. We have our hospital here, and it needs to be staffed. We have to have people in there. That's it. We have to have a way of life. Remember, the Chief Minister's on next Tuesday. If you've got anything to say to the Chief Minister, you can either try your luck on the day, text, email, call or WhatsApp, or if you want to leave a message, then you can either WhatsApp me one, leave a message on WhatsApp, or you can call the answer phone on 682-631, or email manninline@manxradio.com. And a message in, Andy says, that man doesn't have a clue regarding nursing wages. It'd be nice to know, wouldn't it, what the actual rates of pay are for nurses, exactly how much nurses do get paid. We were told yesterday that you have to earn £12.01 per hour in a normal 40-hour week to pay for basics on the Isle of Man. The living wage, £12.01 per hour. The new Manxman, says Paul, certainly isn't cruise ship standard. It's just an expected upgrade of a short ferry vessel. The people who are saying it's cruise standard, and that includes some MHKs, perhaps haven't been on a cruise. Will the cabins need wardrobes on the Manxman when sailings, when it takes 8 hours to go around the Walney wind farm, says G. You never know. That could be it. We may be doing a tour of the Walney wind farm, stopping off at some of the gas rigs. With regards to the use of single plastic, will this include dog waste bags? We're trying to find that out, Nikki. If so, what are we meant to use? Because it's hard enough getting some people to actually use waste bags for dogs without taking away the option of using a single waste one, getting them to clean up after their dog. So we'll see what happens with that. I got a message in also yesterday regarding, I'll try and find this for you, it was regarding windfarm. Oh, this is it, regarding motorhomes as well. It was Alan from Kirkmichael who said, I travel extensively with my Manx registered motorhome. I've even driven it all across Canada and Alaska and back to the Arctic Circle, much of the UK and Europe. In Europe, North America, and even UK towns and cities, they recognise that motorhome tourists spend significantly locally, and good provision is made for motorhome tourists with dedicated parking areas and facilities close to town centres. It's a myth that motorhome owners bring our own food and we don't spend. Most of the owners I meet on my travel are responsible, clean up and follow the motto, leave it cleaner than you found it. Indeed, I often pick up litter in any place I park overnight. I'm widowed, retired, and spend most of my time eating out, meeting friends at pubs and searching for open mic events to play music at. So that's Alan's story regarding obviously, says Alan, there is a minority of owners who may cause problems, but that's not a reason to tar us all with the same brush regarding that. There are facilities on the Isle of Man, aren't there, for motorhome owners to actually park up for the night, various areas, and one of those is in Ramsey, I think, isn't it, by the swimming pool? Several park there. The separate issue is parking in residential areas overnight and perhaps blocking people's view. Now, some motorhomes are relatively small, some are huge, let's face it, some are big. So that may be an issue on a residential street, or I think that arises as much as the parking of vans on residential streets. Dodsy's on now. Hi, Dodsy.
All right, mate. Yeah, I just want to touch on the steam packet, if I may. They've got 4, well, if you can call it 4 vessels. To save a bit of money, or to recoup some money back from what they've spent on the catastrophe that's the Liverpool landing dock, can they not sell the MV Arrow? Because let's face it, the Ben McCree is now going to take the place of the Arrow, and I heard recently that the steam packet's going to let out the the Ben McCree for charter. Now, why can't they just put the MV for charter?
Well, I think
that's what it was designed for in the first place.
Yeah, I think the Arrow is used for when she's not working for us, and obviously a ship only makes money when it's travelling. I think the Arrow is put out to charter, as you say. That's what's going to happen with the Ben McCree. But I think a clause of the charter is if we need the Arrow, she comes back straight away. That's why sometimes when there was a problem with Ben McCree, a technical problem, the Arrow suddenly appeared from nowhere and took up the...
Yeah.
So I think we do rent out the Arrow, and obviously we'll do that. And of course that used to happen years ago. The Lady of Man used to go to Madeira. That's why she had Portuguese writing inside.
Well, why is it then that they've got well, I still don't see why they've got the MV Arrow and the Ben McCree. Well, no, I can understand the side, but the Ben McCree is only doing the freight stuff now, is it? When the Manxman goes into service?
Well, I think
because
the Ben
Manxman's only doing a day run, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the idea is eventually the Manxman will take over both runs per day from, at the moment they're just doing daylight runs with us, so the Ben will just tuck in at night time, and then when the Mannin starts doing, 4 trips a day, that's when the Ben McCree will probably be let out on charter.
So on that then, is the Manxman going to be bringing in freight as well as passengers? Or is it
crikey! No, Manxman will. I mean, the money is in freight. There's no money in passengers when you're running a ship like that. The money is all in freight.
Yeah. Again, so why have they spent so much money on having such a luxurious freighter?
Well, I think other people may say they're treating us better than they used to on Ben McCree. Some people will say the Ben was a bit, cramped in certain places. Remember when the Ben first came, there were howls of fury about it because there wasn't enough passenger space. Everybody was cramped into one passenger lounge, and eventually they had to build another one on the back.
True. All right, okay. I just thought I'd put my 2 cents out there for it.
Good to hear from you. Have a good weekend, Doddsy.
Cheers, and you, mate. See you later.
Thanks for calling today. And Nick's with us now. Hi, Nick.
Hi, good afternoon again. I was wondering, I had a quick question if anybody of our listeners could answer. Last week I was at ShopRite and I noticed a very, very large, American-style Winnebago, which is, if you don't know, is a very large camper, almost looks like a tour bus with the extended sides and things like that. And I was curious about what make it was or what engine size it was. And I went to look up the reg on the government, check the registration information you can do. And it came out with for the reg, it said it was a 2014 Porsche Cayenne. And I was wondering if you have a vehicle, can you use the same reg on a different vehicle, or is that just a fluke?
So it was a large Winnebago style vehicle and the registration was that of a Porsche Cayenne.
Yes, exactly. And I checked the reg. I wasn't wearing glasses, and I went up to it just to make sure I had it right. It was a very simple, easy to remember reg. And I checked it twice, and I even moved the letters around, the 3 alphabetic letters, in case I had it wrong. And it came up with a no known vehicle. And I put the reg that's on it again, and it said the 2014 Porsche Cayenne.
And whereabouts? Which supermarket? Where was it?
It was in Ramsey. It was just some people had parked up to go shopping, and there wasn't really. There's no complaint about it. It was taking up space, but it wasn't exactly heaving. But I was just curious because I've never seen a vehicle that size on the Isle of Man, and I also don't know how you'd use it.
What was it? A Manx plate or was it a UK plate?
Yeah, it was a Manx registration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, did it look like a personal? Did it look like a personalised plate?
I'm not really au fait with that, but it was. It was only 2 digits and 3 letters, so maybe.
Yeah, perhaps it's a personalised plate. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just curious because I mean, my son and I, will look at different vehicles just to see their engine size or whatever, what make they are, and we use that app, infrequently, I suppose, but not that app. It's on the government website. Yeah. But I was just curious. I wasn't trying to shop them or anything for anything, because they weren't doing anything wrong really, as far as I'm concerned. But I was just wondering. Also, that's such a huge vehicle. It would seem like such a waste of diesel to drive it around the island, but maybe they live off the island more often than not.
All right, Nick, thanks for calling today.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe someone knows.
All right, thanks for that. I want to go to... Wilf's with us. Hi, Wilf.
This is just something I was told yesterday. And I was told by a man, I won't say who it was, but I was told by a man who knows about these things, because that's what his job is. And he said the new terminal in Liverpool itself was going to limit the amount of freight to certain times of the day and certain weights, certain amount of freight coming off that dock.
Yeah, so I think that's right.
Tedious stuff, but that's right, is it?
Yeah. I think, to be quite honest, it's not even designed. I don't think Liverpool actually want any freight coming off there. So there may be
there you go.
Maybe vans, but certainly nothing big.
So, what I thought this new dock and everything was going to handle everything.
No, it's not. It's a passenger terminal.
Just passengers.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's fair enough. I'm an old dull manxman, you see, and I'm old school, and the saying is, if it's lies I was telling you later, it's lies I was told. So it's as simple as that.
All right. Have a good weekend, Wilf.
Okay.
Cheers. Thanks for that. John's joined us now. Hi, John.
Oh, faster mile, wouldn't you? How are you doing?
Good, thanks, yeah.
I've been listening the last couple of days, some comments about windmills and such. I used to be an engineer in industry, and I would have to lay plans before my boss for various projects and such. And now, if I'd come to him and said, I've got a wonderful idea for a brand new power supply system. We must scrap our existing one. I know it's reliable and fairly economical and whatever, but we got to scrap it. And we must build something which it's over 4 acres, which our current power supply occupies. Is going to occupy 2,500 acres. It'll take 9 times the resources, i.e. steel, concrete and whatever, than the existing power supply uses. It's going to kill birds, bats and insects. It's going to require subsidising. It's got to be replaced every 15 or 20 years. There would be. It's going to incur balancing costs because the intermittent output will cause system instability. And if it's producing too much power, then we'll have to pay them to turn it off. I wonder what my boss would have said about that.
What do you think?
Oh yes, of course. As this power source only delivers power 25 or 30% of the time, we're going to be dependent on a foreign country to supply what is needed to make up our consumption. And this foreign country has already got serious issues of its own in power supply. And if we ask them for power, then as happened when the UK imported power in an emergency from Belgium, they'll probably charge us an arm and a leg. So oh yes, and of course we don't know what it's going. I can't say what it's going to cost. and there's been no technical analysis, and there's been no environmental analysis either. And it's going to be, but it's all right. It's going to be built on government land, although of course government land is held in trust by the public. Doesn't that sound wonderful?
Well, the potential wind farm sites are what? Sulby and Druidale in the north, and Eristane and Scards in the south. The end of the summer, there's going to be a final decision, so more environmental and technical appraisals. So they reckon by 2026 we will have 20 megawatt capacity wind farm.
But 20 megawatts over a year, or 20 megawatts nameplate, i.e. 20 megawatts when the wind is blowing at 30 miles an hour.
Nobody said. Nobody said. No,
exactly so. It's like all these things. It's what's not said, which is the most significant. Of course, as we said before, the output of a windmill is a cube law. If you're producing maximum power at 30 miles an hour, i.e. force 7 to 8 near gale force, and the wind drops to about 15 miles an hour, about a top end of a force 3, the output drops by 1/8. Drops to 1/8 of the maximum power. And below 13 miles an hour, don't produce anything. Basically.
So, John, if we are to decarbonise, if we are to have sustainable, renewable energy on the Isle of Man, what do you think we should have? Because you obviously think we shouldn't have wind farms.
Well, decarbonise. That's one of the biggest conflicts of the decade.
It may be in your view a contract, but it's a worldwide trend. It's a political and cultural worldwide trend to get away from the using fossil fuels to generate electricity. So if we don't use wind, what do we do on the Isle of Man?
No, we need to step back from this. What have we got at the moment? We've got a combined cycle gas turbine, which uses gas, which burns mainly Norwegian gas, cleanly and mostly reliably, economically. The Norwegians are embarking on an enormous extension of their offshore oil and gas fields, and we hopefully have the Kroger gas of our own in the not too distant future. I mean, why would we want to replace that with something expensive, unreliable, and which has shown where countries where it's been implemented that it's ended up with grid instability, higher costs, and a greater unreliability.
What do you think of the MHK, Michelle Haywood, then, who said that she thinks wind turbines are beautiful and she sees a community making a commitment to the future?
Well, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. What I see is something killing birds, bats and insects and producing small amounts of power erratically at quite significant cost.
Okay, all right.
I'm an engineer. I'm an engineer. I'm not a poet. I look at these things from a strictly factual and where the information is available financial basis. And this decarbonisation, which is this mass hysteria, which has seized the West and is causing huge costs and in fact is deindustrialising Europe. It is so sad that no politician, apart from we've got one in Tumwood who stands up against it, are just letting it happen. And of course, it's not done locally. I should imagine the Manx net zero bill and all that sort of thing, and now the push on onshore windmills comes straight from UK government policy. I mean, we just follow UK government policy, and if we didn't follow UK government policy, well, we might find our VAT returns mysteriously reducing yet again.
And that's the key, John, because there is obviously a worldwide agenda to reduce the use of fossil fuels. We are an international finance centre. Many of those international finance companies are signed up to international agreements, and if the Isle of Man doesn't fit in or conform to those international agreements, they could well pack up their bags and go.
They could indeed, and that's what comes back to the whole thing. The whole thing is political. It's driven by politics. It's driven by the politics of the UN. It is driven by the politics of the Davos crowd. It is driven by these huge conglomerates around the world who are looking to make a pretty penny out of all this. The climate industrial complex. So, our government should be upfront about this.
Okay, all right, John. Okay, thanks for that. All the best to you. Have a good weekend. Thanks for being with us today. This is the story about plans to build a wind farm capable of delivering around a third of the Isle of Man's electricity by 2026 on schedule. Manx Utilities updated Comin last week on the potential site for a 20 megawatt wind farm alongside plans to install 10 megawatts of solar on public buildings combined with private, domestic and commercial installations. It means the Isle of Man, they say, is on course to deliver 40 megawatts of renewable energy by 2026, which I remind you is not that far away. Potential wind farm sites, Sulby and Druidale in the north, Eristane and Scards in the south.
It's a tough time for businesses. Not sure what to do to turn things around? Let Nicola Bowker & Co. guide you through. We've helped hundreds of businesses to success. Accountants and tax advisors to businesses on the Isle of Man.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows let in rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows.
Ramsey Garden Centre opens 7 days a week for roses, shrubs, trees, perennials and an array of pond plants. Or if it's fire pits or solar lights, there's never been a better time to visit Ramsey Garden Centre.
Whether you like your martini shaken or stirred, you'll find everything is just perfect at Bond's Restaurant in Onken, where your host and new owner Saeed, formerly of the Italian shop, will ensure that you enjoy a fabulous experience from the moment you arrive. Whether dining for two or holding a celebration, Bond's will exceed your expectations with superb food without the fine dining price tag. For menus, upcoming theme nights and online bookings, visit bonds.im.
Singers, dancers, musicians, performers. Put your hands together for the Young Stars of Man, Thursday 27th July at the Villa Gaiety. A live variety show showcasing the incredible talent of our island. Presented by and raising funds for I'll Listen, the young person's mental health charity. Tickets available now at villagaiety.com or on 600 555. The Young Stars of Man, supported by Simcox.
They say a week is a long time in politics, and what a week we've just had. Tynwald members were queuing up to talk to me about everything from internal bullying, lack of confidence in the government, and is the Chief Minister the right person to continue to lead the Isle of Man into the sunny future land of promise? July Tynwald always seems to produce fiery debates and hot heads, but add in the sacking of a minister and political drama is guaranteed. On Perspective this Sunday at 12 noon on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gaughan, outgoing Minister Chris Thomas gives his warts and all final assessment on his turbulent year as Infrastructure Minister.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
20 to 1 on Manx Radio. Hiya, Sammy. Dropped a note in just to say, when's Rob Pritchard going to be commentating on FC Isle of Man again? A week tomorrow. FC Isle of Man take on Withenshaw at the Bowl in Douglas, and Manx Radio's Rob Pritchard will be there in his coat with a microphone. You should see him in the winter. He looks like Nanook of the North sometimes. Let me see. We got Mike. Hi, Mike.
Hello, Andy. Regards to the previous caller about the wind farm.
Yeah.
He's dead right in what he's saying. And as I've previously said on the Mannin Line, there's more to than just putting up the windmills. The whole infrastructure will have to be redone on the island to cope with it. I've told you before that the ones where I used to live in the UK, 25 years later on, they're still braked because the infrastructure hasn't been updated and cannot cope when the wind is strong with the amount of electricity that they provide.
When you say infrastructure, what do you mean? To a layperson, it's too much electricity that won't fit into the grid at that point.
Yeah, well, you've got your substations and everything else that actually takes the electricity that's developed from the windmill through the distribution centre, the cables, etc. The whole thing will have to be uprated to cope with it.
Okay, and typically what will that involve? Digging the road up, putting big cables in and a substation to get the electricity in at that point?
Well, I'm in mechanical engineering. I'm not an electrician, but I have worked in the power station and on substations and on the Isle of Man, and there's just lots of kit in there. All I do know from, the previous experience, and talking to my friends who still live there, those 5 windmills are generating electricity when they do run, but never do you see all 5 run. Most of the time, if you're lucky, it's 2. And the people, it was a private consortium who built them, they get paid for what they could have developed. So they're making a huge amount of money, and the electricians who work for the distribution company over there, I don't know, it's all private now, I don't know what it is, they're still saying the local substation and the cabling from it to get it into the system isn't man enough to take it. So there's a huge cost involved here just to pacify the green agenda. Plus, recently, where I think it's 2 companies in Germany are in serious trouble. I think Siemens was one of them, with the actual engineering of these windmills. So are we going to buy something that is then obsolete or not as good, which a lot of people, there are various reports saying they're not nearly as efficient or green as they're made out to be. So we're just throwing more good money after bad.
Well, bearing in mind the current state of play, what confidence would you have in the government and the infrastructure people here getting that done on time, on budget?
It makes me laugh. A lot of people are saying about, let's have a new government. You can change the government, and yes, you'll get rid of possibly some people with their agendas and their beliefs, but you won't get rid of the civil servants who are behind it anyway.
Okay.
Who are doing it. So, can I just make another quick comment?
Okay. About
a different subject?
Yeah, by all means.
My wife's a nurse, and she doesn't get anywhere near 40 grand on her basic wage. She might if she works lots of overtime where they're severely understaffed.
How long's she been a nurse, Mike?
I don't actually know, because she started when she was probably about 30 odd years.
In terms of her,
started in England.
In terms of her mood, and you'll know because you're married to her, what did she think of the job now compared to when she first started?
It's not. She still loves to care for people. The problem is the politics involved, the managements, and some of the managers might be getting this 80 grand or whatever. But she does get quite disillusioned sometimes because she can't do her job. All she wants to do is care for people, and it's hard. It's hard going.
Okay, all right. Wish her the best, Mike. Have a good weekend.
Okay.
Good to hear from you. Tony B's with us now. Hi, Tony.
How you doing, Andy?
Very happy today.
Good. It's Friday, so I expect you to be happy because you get a couple of days of not everybody moaning at you. I think both of the previous callers had got great points. Unfortunately, our government is not listening, and I think that's part of the problem with the government. And part of that problem is DOI. Now, the people in DOI and in the administration divisions have been given targets by the government, which were stupid targets to start with, but given targets but no interpretation of how they carry them out. So the end result is what we've got now. We've been hijacked and sent down a road which the government no longer controls. It's controlled by the civil servants who have laid out what they think we should do about it, with lots of advice from people who don't know what they're talking about. So if you think about it, when was the last time you heard anybody in government now, talk about hot rock?
I don't think anybody's ever spoken about geothermal at all, really, apart from to dismiss it.
Well, my question is, why? That's what I'm asking, because if you think about it, this is not an MHK saying this, it's what their departments tell them to say. So I think we should get all the departments who are involved in that area, and the ones who are involved in producing gas, which they don't want to do either, and we should just fire all the people who don't agree with us. Get rid of the ones who have these ideas. And I think if we're in a situation where you start making civil servants responsible for what they do, you would see a massive change in heart. Because all they do is spend government money, which is taxpayers' money, and waste a lot of it. So you're going to end up with another wind farm, which, as the man says, isn't just one thing about a windmill, it's about the distribution system. Electricity, the electricity company, the old Manx Electric, went bust and had to be bailed out years ago because somebody had decided we're going to invest in a lot of money in overhead lines. With the end result that it went broke, and the government never blamed anybody. Nobody was ever fired. The man in charge left with a big pension and a laugh on his face. And exactly the same thing is going to continue to happen if you don't stop it. I do hope, I really do hope, that Alf Cannon can do something with the DOI. I think it needs to be broken up so you can actually see who's doing what, where and how, because it's too big, and they don't have a clue what half of it does. It's because you can't see it. It's hidden. And they don't do what they're told to do. They do what they think they should do. And far too much politics is involved. And as for the government and the MHKs, they spend too much time asking so-called experts what they think we should do, instead of looking at it themselves. And then they'll tell you they haven't got that expertise. Well, there are loads of people in the Isle of Man with expertise. You've just heard one. An engineer, you just heard one before him, another engineer. And in both cases, engineers are saying this is stupidity. But we won't listen to the engineers, we'll listen to a consultant.
Okay. All right, Tony, thanks for calling today.
Oh, one last thing.
Okay.
I had the joy of going down to the harbour and having a look at the Manxman.
Yes.
And I noticed there's no lifeboats in view. There are, however, 2 tenders on one side, and I guess there's 2 on the other side, which are twin-engine, fast boats which you would fly out from, for instance, a cruise ship or something like that. Now, my question is, How comfortable do you feel going on a vessel when there's no lifeboats?
On that happy note, Tony, thanks for calling.
Thank you very much, and you have a good weekend as well, Andy.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. Well, we'll see what happens with that. And let me just give you this story about the pollution and the single-use plastics. Okay, from 19th of October, it's going to be illegal to sell or supply single-use plastic straws, carrier bags, cutlery, including chopsticks, plates, stirrers, plastic-stemmed cotton buds, polystyrene cups and polystyrene food containers. The ban comes into effect on the 19th of October. That's 12 weeks or 13 weeks as yesterday, and will also apply to personal care products containing microbeads, balloon sticks and all products made from oxo-degradable plastic which don't completely decompose. Some exemptions will be made for certain items, including the use of plastic bags for uncooked meat and fish, plastic straws and cotton buds used in medical settings, compostable plastic certified to British standard BSEN 13432, and carrier bags made of woven plastic or reusable bag for a certain specification. There's nothing about dog waste bags.
Drive smarter, drive more reliable, drive a great deal at Mannin Motors. With a superb range of cars for every budget, always available. And if we don't have it, we'll source it. Plus, servicing, valeting and prestige detailing too. Mannin Motors, Richmond Hill, Douglas. Find us on Facebook or call 420 420. That's 420 420. Drive a better bargain at Mannin Motors.
For powerboat training to become more confident and knowledgeable in our waters, or how to use a boat safely and gain an RYA qualification, contact Chris at Chell Marine on 22 1000 or visit chellmarine.co.uk.
Summer is here, so check out the King William's College Summer Activity Camps taking place at the Buchan School, Castletown. You'll find a fantastic range of age-appropriate activities for children island-wide, aged 8 and over. There's cookery, arts and crafts, multi-sports, music and more running through to the 1st of September at just £35 per day or £150 for a 5-day booking. For more information, visit the King William's College Facebook page or see online at kwc.im.
5.75% gross AER.
What?
5.75% gross AER on savings.
Really? That can only be on a Guernsey-based Skipton International fixed-rate savings account.
I thought that would get your attention. Yes, right now, Skipton International is offering a fixed rate of 5.75% gross AER when depositing £50,000 or more.
Call 01481 730 730 or find out more online at skiptoninternational.com.
Skipton International is licensed to take deposits by the Guernsey Financial Services Commission and is a participant in the Guernsey Banking Deposit Compensation Scheme. Details at dcs.gg. Terms and conditions apply.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And Howard's with us. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Just listening to a couple of the callers before, saying common sense prevails, but all this palaver about wind turbines, etc., and the new one that's just come out is going to provide 40 megawatts eventually, supplying a third of the island's electricity. Now, what happens when the wind doesn't blow, or the other extreme, when it blows too much and they've got to shut them down? Industry on the island of all aspects, the hospital be supplied, but what happens there when the power supply drops to what was deemed as 2/3 of the island supply? There's been no mention of any parallel system that will run and follow the pattern of the electricity supply that we have at the present. They're talking about getting rid of the power stations, the gas power stations. Now that's going to destroy a tremendous amount of supply, but you cannot depend on wind farms, and it's been proven it's a costly venture, because up in Scotland, naturally they'll put them up there because it's extremely windy up in the very north of Scotland. It's a money-making exercise, because I think it was last year they were paid, the companies, private companies, and this is one of the things that's been advocated by one of your contributors, a public-private enterprise. that they were paid something like 160 million last year for when the wind farms are shut down because the national grid couldn't cope with the amount that was supplied when they were running full chat. Now, is the Isle of Man government going to go into such a partnership where they will pay private companies when these wind farms are not working? In other words, well, there's no electricity, but we're going to get paid anyway. So why, they won't be in a hell of a rush to start them up again. But what concerns me is if they're going to cut out 1/3 of the power when the wind doesn't blow or it does blow too hard, what's going to back it up? There's not been one line anywhere in the government reports saying what they're going to do if this happens. All they're pushing is for turbines. Turbines.
Okay. All right. Howard, thanks for calling. Have a good weekend.
Take care. Bye now.
Cheers now. Well, we watch and we wait where this is concerned. 25 years ago, this October, I joined Manx Radio and started presenting Mannin Line. In those 25 years, we've had a brand new power station. We've had the interconnector, largest AC interconnector in the world to Bispam. We've had the Irish sewage system. We've had a brand new hospital. We've had a brand new energy from waste plant. We've had the gas connector put in. We've had a runway extension. We've got a new boat. We've had a lot of infrastructure over the past 25 years, and we've been wealthy to pay for that. So what's going to happen in the future? Well, the Chief Minister's in on Tuesday. We'll ask him that and many more questions. In the meantime, have a great weekend, and thanks to Chris and Howie on the phones today.
WI